I was thinking about this subject for a long time, and, it just seems strange to me why people believe history. Why would people trust what the history books, what the historians, what the scholars, why would the general public believe any of this? It doesn't make any sense to me. So the topic of today's video is history cannot and must not be trusted for obvious reasons. When you do a little bit of research, right, automatically, all you have are contradictions, right? And you find out pretty soon, that there are only contradictions and inconsistencies. And then you find out that there is no true depiction, no true testimony, no true summary of an event in history, right? Every event in history obviously has been doctored, changed, manipulated, edited. There is nothing pure. No story is pure. It cannot be pure because, of course, of the ruling class who, of course, own all of these institutions, all of these scholars, all of these historians. The historians are the lackeys of the ruling class. They are on the payroll. I'm just, the reason I'm making this video is because I'm baffled by people who just assume that history is factual. I'm baffled by people who believe, history books and all of these specialists and experts and professionals in the, in the specialized institutions who chronicle, the passage of time and the events, right? I don't trust these people. Why would you trust these people? Why would you trust a single sentence in any book, in any history book? Right? Of course, we have the famous line, history is written by the winners, by the victors. Of course, right? So there is no doubt that history is, at best, a deception sprinkled with a little bit of truth, right? And when you talk to somebody about whatever event in history, automatically they think that they know what happened because they saw a documentary or because they were paying attention in history class or they read a book, right? And they assume. But pretty much, a person's general knowledge of history is basically hearsay. This has to be addressed. Most people, their accumulation of historical events, it is attained through, verbally, like from other people, from older generations, from people around their neighborhood, etc., etc. It's not like most people do not go, into a library and just peruse, really old books, right? So most people, they just assume that they know stuff about the past because grandpa told them or because they heard some of the old people talk about it or whatever, politician, right? Politicians who keep on stressing certain events in the past to get, the people in his or her corner, right? This is pretty popular. It has always been, right? But generally, people have absolutely no idea about anything. Most people don't know nothing about nothing, right? Especially about historical events, right? I mean, most people can't even remember what they did yesterday, right? And I always thought about this. I always thought about, the past. The past is very important because the past shows that every generation, generation after generation, people, the peasants, the plebs, the working class, they have been bamboozled time and time again by the ruling class and by their minions. Okay, if you were to define history, it will be this: history is comprised of a lot of dumb people being deceived and controlled and manipulated by, a tight-knit group that own everything. Okay, this is history. Everything else, in regards to history, is at best, what you might call it, a hypothesis. Okay? Most things that we assume about history, they are, tangents. They're not the actual thing. Okay? Every history book that is in the mainstream has been designed especially to be consumed by the, mindless masses. Of course, this is so basic. This is such a basic tactic, and yet nobody can even consider such a thing as being possible, which strikes me yet again with, my, appraisal that most people are dumber than a sack of bricks. Okay, listen. This is what I have to say. Any type of story with historic connotations that is promoted, endorsed, supported by the mainstream being the government, institutions, scholars, any event, any narrative, every story that is promoted and backed by the authorities, I immediately distrust and I immediately am incredibly skeptical. Okay? For obvious reasons. You can't trust what the authorities, give out as factual. Okay? Because it cannot be factual. Because the mission of any government, of any authority, of any ruling class is to deceive the nation, deceive the population. Because they know that most people are so lazy that they won't do their own research, and they know that most people are so apathetic that they will accept anything that is spoon-fed to them. And of course, before you type your comment, I'm not an expert in anything. I'm not better than anybody, but at least I can proudly say that I do research on a daily basis, and I do not swallow anything. Okay? I do not swallow anything. I do not believe anybody. Okay? No matter how good, no matter what they say, no matter how good it is, I don't just accept it, by default. I always have to think about it. I always have to analyze it and do some real research. Okay? So back to history. We simply cannot know, the actual facts of any historic event. Okay? Of any importance, of any significance. We, the general public, will never know. We are given, the vanilla version of any historic event. Okay? I mean, just, when you think about it, I don't know, something major that happened a couple of years ago and people have already forgotten about it. And if you tell them about it, they go like, oh yeah, I remember that, but they don't know nothing about that subject. Okay, so how can people have the audacity to say that they know about something that happened 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 700 years ago? Okay, it has been proven without a shadow of a doubt that the last couple of major wars at least in the 20th century, World War I and World War II and all of the others, they did not start because of what the historians say, okay? Those wars did not commence because some archduke got popped somewhere, right? There are a lot of other reasons, multifaceted, darker, sinister, right? Etc., etc. False flag events. Okay, do not believe that your government will tell you the truth about anything. They're gonna twist it and they're gonna, bend it, to soothe and to suit their purposes, which is to control and deceive, the masses. Anyone who has the audacity to say that, yes, indeed, the government will tell us the truth. Yes, indeed, the military is on our side and they're going to tell us the truth. These people are so naive, so gullible. They're lost causes. They are lost causes, okay? These people are, unfortunately, part of the problem. They are the enemy. Because they will believe anything. They will swallow anything. Most people don't know nothing about nothing. They think they do, right? Let me give you an example. For the most part of my life, especially when I was younger, I still do it, but I do it rarely now. But when I was younger, I used to spend a lot of my time just watching every kind of documentary on war, on history, on all of these genocides and all of these crimes against humanity, and reading shit, researching shit, but mostly just watching all of these documentaries, mainly on war, on historical battles, kings, events in the past, old, civilizations, ancient, civilizations, wars, etc., etc. And all I saw was just pogrom, genocide, purges, cleansings, mass murder. And I thought that I knew this horrendous side of humanity. I thought that I knew the major genocides in history. And every time I do some research, I stumble upon another one. And it's more disgusting than the previous. And then I do some more research and I stumble upon another mass murder, and it's more horrendous than the other. Again and again and again. Right? You never read about any of this in all of your, history books. Your history teacher didn't tell you about, for example, the rape of Nanking. They didn't tell you that what happened in Dresden, okay, etc., etc. I could go on for days, right? Right? You never hear about something like this. Generally, when it comes to the mainstream, exhibition of history, we have a couple of important people, kings, queens, generals, advisors, and then we have a couple of major wars, we have dates, we have maybe some political shenanigans, maybe an assassination here and there. But all of these are superficial aspects of an extremely complex thing. And this is the mainstream. This is the status quo when it comes to teaching the general public history, right? It's so superficial. It's so on the surface, right? It's not even the tip of the iceberg. It is above the tip of the iceberg, right? And this is why most people despise history. It is because a lot of dates, a lot of numbers are shoved down the throats of kids, and they just have this allergic reaction. I had this reaction as well, right? But when you study history and look at all the details, at all the tomfoolery, I mean, man, it's so interesting, so captivating, so compelling. The sinister, dark shit that happens on a daily basis, right? This is what should be taught in every school, in every classroom. This is what all of the elders with experience. This is what they should tell their grandkids. And not that king whatever had 6 wives and he was fat and he preferred cupcakes. What is this nonsense, right? Right? Most people don't know nothing about nothing. Okay? So I, for one, do not trust anything in history. Anything. Okay? Because there is, listen, and this will be controversial, this will be even scandalous, outrageous. But you simply cannot prove, for example, that somebody like Napoleon Bonaparte or Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar or Genghis Khan actually existed, and you cannot prove that they did what they did. Okay? It's so easy to fabricate things. Okay? Okay? The ruling class, they have a lot of lackeys on the payroll. They write false testimonies. They write, chronicles. They paint these magnificent portraits of these people, and they write all of the events that occur. And people believe it, because why would the experts lie? Why would the experts fabricate history to bamboozle and to trick the people to believe, a figment of the imagination? This is how you control people, folks. If people have absolutely no idea who they are, where they come from, what happened a couple of generations ago, right? If they believe a falsehood, like it's over, it's game over, right? Right? A history of a nation is the backbone, the foundation, the quintessence of any population. If that foundation is a fabrication, then everything else doesn't matter, right? Because people live their lives with the false idea that they come from this place, and their people did this in the past. How can you prove any of this? How can you prove any of this, right? Right? You have a lot of documentation that, I don't know, some major figure did this, and some major figure spoke about this. All of these can be fabricated. Because listen, unfortunately, all the people that were, first-hand witnesses or second-hand witnesses, they're all dead. They cannot back, their testimonies. All the witnesses, they're all gone. They're all dead for hundreds of years. We don't have anybody to question, right? We cannot interrogate anybody. We have pieces of paper that are very old, and those pieces of paper obviously can be fabricated. And I, for one, believe that a lot of the historic archives have been fabricated to sell the people a certain type of story. Because that's how you rule the world. You make shit up, and people believe it. So all the major events in history for the last, I don't know, let's just say for the last 2,000 years, I'm extremely skeptical. I tend to doubt. And of course, you have to be a fool to believe that the experts, the professionals, the people with the prowess would indeed tell the actual truth without any, without any changes, right? If I were, I don't know, a part of the ruling class, this is what I would do. I would have all the experts, all the authorities under my wing, and I would tell them what to write. I will tell them what kind of propaganda to publicize. And of course, over time, over the generation, this absolute forgery, this fraud, becomes legitimate. It is legitimized because people believe it, and they tell it to their kids, and their kids tell it to their kids. And this is how forgeries become actual history. This is how forgeries become the status quo. Okay? And I'm just some guy, right? The ruling class have been in business for a long time, and they know exactly what they're doing. Okay? Okay, history to me, you always have to peruse it with a grain of sand. You always have to be dubious. You always have to be skeptical, you know? And I think this is an issue that a lot of people suffer from, which is that a lot of people, the majority of people, are incredibly credulous, gullible, naive. You know, they believe almost anything that comes from an authority figure. I mean, how dare we, question the ethical integrity of scholars, historians, chronicles, teachers, professors? How dare we? Who are we? They have an education. And this is how they bamboozle people into submission. Right? Right? Nobody has the right to tell other people what to believe. You have to do your own research. You have to search. You have to dig. You have to think for yourself, because otherwise you're going to end up trusting somebody else's story that is a forgery, and you will live your life based on a delusion, based on a illusion, right? And people are so proud because they think that they come from a certain group of people, from a certain bloodline, and they think that their predecessors did this and they did that, and oh boy, aren't we proud? Okay, my bet is that what you believe in is pretty much at least 90% absolute fake. Absolutely. Because there's no way to prove any of this. All the people that were involved are dead. How are you going to prove this? A piece of paper, signed and stamped by a so-called expert, educated, like I can write a piece of paper, right? Will that piece of paper become, legitimate? Just because I have the title of historian, scholar, professor, right? I mean, it's incredible how so many people support, a piece of paper that whose legitimacy is baseless. You have a gigantic tome of historical, facts, and all I see is phony stuff. You sprinkled in with a little bit of truth. You see, in order to truly deceive people and to bamboozle them with propaganda, is to sprinkle just an iota of truth, just a little bit, to tickle them just right, and you're home free. Okay, history cannot be trusted, folks. History cannot be trusted at all. And to end this video, I would say this. Pretty much, history, to me, is nothing but bloodshed. It's nothing but carnage and mayhem, entropy, silly hatred, a lot of murder, and a lot of awful things. This, to me, is history. A lot of people getting murdered for no reason whatsoever other than human beings are nasty-ass creatures, beasts. This is what history is to me. Okay, all the silly stories about all of these politicians and aristocrats and nobility who did these humanitarian things. I don't believe any of that bullshit. Okay, I don't know why people are so fascinated with these, regal houses, right? With all these kings and queens and princes, barons. I'm extremely skeptical of these people. These people are the main reason for a lot of hardships, for a lot of tears, for a lot of tragedy, and they are held up as these, paragons of virtue and whatever, and honor and courage, and morality. It isn't so, folks. You will find that the actual leaders of any nation who are, branded as saviors and, these humanitarians, they are the ones who orchestrated all of this bloodshed for profit. For profit. Okay? But that's about it. If you enjoy this content, if you want to support your boy, I got a few books on Amazon. The link will be down below. Thanks for watching. Keep on reading with a critical mind. Never believe anything. Trust in your instincts. Trust in your gut feeling. Okay? And most importantly, think for yourself. This is key. Okay? See ya.